Hi, I'm Jeanette Neiden. I'm trying something new today, a video blog. I have a question for my contracting professional friends out there. Here's a situation that happened when I was mentoring a client recently. And by mentoring, I mean I was co-negotiating a very large complex agreement that was going to continue for 15 years. And in the course of negotiating, we had to talk about the termination of the agreement. So in all likelihood, the agreement would go on for 15 years. However, the stakeholder leadership, the executive leadership, and the stakeholder legal team member both wanted an early termination for business reasons included in the agreement. Now, within this agreement, it was a fixed fee for each year. So for year one, there was fee X. For year two, it was X plus the cost of living increase at 2.5%, 3%. Year three is X plus the cost of living increase from year two plus whatever the cost of living increase is for year three, etc. So we had a nice table set out. When it came time to negotiate the cancellation for a business reason early termination clause, we needed to determine a buyout of that contract because the supplier was making certain investments, not so much in capital, but in resources and some consumables into the service that they would not be able to get out of the relationship in an early termination, meaning they were going to amortize their investment over the 15 years when they came up with the price X for year one, etc. And they wanted compensation for that if my organization, the buying customer, needed to terminate that agreement early. Now, when we got the numbers for the early termination fee, my client and I were surprised by the numbers. We felt that they were a little too high. They were also unsupported. They were undocumented. It was just a number, and it was like, in year three, this is what it would be, and in year seven, this is what it would be, and this is, the sliding scale, for example. When we questioned the supplier, and we wanted to get some information, do our due diligence, in other words, about what supported those numbers for an early buyout, the supplier said, well, in a fixed fee agreement, it's a black box. Now, I was on the phone, and my colleague, my co-negotiator, the person I was mentoring, was in the room with the supplier. And I could tell by his verbal exchange, he was a little taken aback by that statement. I know the leadership team at this client well enough to know that if they had been there, they would have been extraordinarily displeased with that comment, because it almost came off sort of sarcastic and offhand, like, hey, you don't get to question us. Fixed fee is a black box. Being a teacher and a coach and a mentor, I sat back in my chair in my office and I was wearing my headphones and I thought, well, now isn't that an interesting answer? Is it true that in a fixed fee agreement, in a 15-year agreement, where the supplier wants to negotiate what the buyout amount would be if my client were to terminate the contract early for its convenience, change in strategic direction, they close the business, whatever the reason would be, that it's really a black box? So my question to you, professional colleagues on LinkedIn, is how would you handle that? And my client and I would like to hear from you. So please reach out to me, jn@jneiden.com. Reach out to me in LinkedIn, Jeanette Neiden. Reach out to me on the phone, 206-723-3472. But reach out to me. I'd like to know what you think about that. And my new method of communicating. So instead of putting in words, putting it in a video. What do you think of that? Have a great afternoon.